What's up, meandering spirits? It's Shane here. Today I want to show you how to build and start a fire in real time so that you can kind of gauge how long it's going to take you when you start to go camping. I'm going to try to show you every single step that's involved in starting a fire. I'm going to break it down, and so that you can, if you want, pause the video at any point, rewind it, watch it over and over again, practice it at home, and when you get out here in the backcountry, or if you go car camping, it's a lot easier to do. So you're not stressed out, it's a lot fun and enjoyable, and you can have a better time outdoors. So let's get into it. I'll first talk about what kind of tools you first need. I'm assuming though that everyone's going to have access to firewood. You can pick this up either on the way up to your campsite, or usually it's available at campgrounds or campsites. So I'm assuming that you already have this, but if you don't, you're going to be foraging for dead wood lumber out and about, and then cutting that down to size, and then chopping that into logs. And then once you have your firewood, the only tools that you need are three things. Usually what I carry with me in the backcountry, I have a foldable saw, but in this case I don't really need it right now. So what I have is a hatchet, just a small little hatchet that I'm going to use to split these larger pieces of wood initially. So that's that. I have a camp knife that I keep. So I use this to split the wood to even smaller diameters, and then from there I shave the wood down into feather sticks, when I'll show you what that looks like. So that's that one. And then just having a pair of matches. You can have a lighter, it doesn't matter, just need anything that can make a flame. It's a lot easier than starting a fire. It's a lot easier to start a fire if you have matches or if you have a lighter. That's just a no-brainer. And if you do have fire starting material such as paper, newspaper, in this case I have a little bit of cardboard that I found just in our supplies here. You can use that to help you start the fire initially. It really does help if you have things like this. But I'm gonna first, before I get started here, look around the campsite and see if I can find anything that's of use. What I'm looking for is like small twigs, very, very dry material like needles or bark that's been falling off trees. I can use that, create a pile, and then I can build on top of that. And that's very dry material. So I'm just gonna walk around the campsite here and see what I can find, and I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm just looking around and I can see all these little twigs and stuff, and to test if they're super dry, I'm just going to snap them in half and see how easy it is to snap. And a lot of these snap very, very easily. That means they're kind of bone dry or so. It did rain, I believe, here at this campsite or this location not too long ago, but it's been hot for the last week or so, so these should have dried out. So I found a lot of these little twigs, which is great. And now I'm also looking for pines or needles that are falling off the trees, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a sec. And some bark, very, very thin bark, if I can find that as well. Right? Okay, that's pretty much it. Oh, a little bit here as well. Okay, so I'll show you what I've got so far. So I've got all these little twigs and stuff. That's great fire starting material. I can build my fire using that stuff. Okay. These are those needles that I was talking about. So these are coming off of trees here. This is a lot of pine trees here. So that's what's coming off there. And there's also this very, very thin bark material. So if you don't have paper, this is almost like paper. This is pretty much paper, I guess. That's coming off of trees. It's falling off. It's very, very thin material. Catches the fire very, very easily. So we want to keep a little bit of that as well to start the flame from the match. Okay. So we're going to keep all that nice and secure. It is a windy day today, very, very windy. So we want to keep that and put that aside here. I'm going to just put it in the fire pit area and keep that here. Now I can build my fire in just a sec. Now what I'm going to do is, some of these logs have already been more or less split already into smaller diameter pieces, right? But if you don't have any of these smaller diameter pieces, you'll have to take these larger logs and split them. And the reason why we do that is to create more and more surface area. The thinner the wood, the easier it is to light and to carry a flame. the big pieces take forever to catch fire. So what we want to do is keep splitting these into smaller diameters, and then from there we're going to create feather sticks, and I'll show you what that is like. So first we're going to I'll give you an example of how to split wood. So you're going to have wood, it's about this big in diameter or so, and that's a bit too big right now, so we're going to split that. So you can do that a couple of ways. You can use your axe and you can just tap, keep tapping away, and then that splits, right? Nice and easy, it splits very simply, right? Another way of doing it is called batoning. So if you have a knife, look for the grains in the wood, and you're going to be following the grains, right? You're going to put it along the grain, you're going to grab another piece of wood, and you're going to start tapping, right? And then you're going to tap all the way through. Okay, so that also splits your wood, which is great. So we're going to do that a couple more times, and as your pieces of wood get thinner and thinner, it's easier to baton instead of using the axe method. So we're going to just take this piece of wood and just keep batoning it down, splitting these. And if it breaks off like that, it's okay. Just flip it around and see if you can split it a little bit more evenly. When it gets to the end or almost, you can just twist your knife like this, and that just snaps the wood in half. Okay, so we're going to do that there. Okay, we're going to put these aside. Those are about the right size. This one's still a bit big, so we're going to go across the grain, tap, 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 all the way through, twist the knife, and it snaps apart like this. Do this one again. Okay, it's fine. This one too, it's a little bit big. Go across the grain. Right through. Okay, great. And then we'll do this one again too. Okay, so we got a bunch of wood that's small diameter. It's about a thumb or so in thickness, which is really good. We have some bigger pieces, and then we also have our sticks and our really fine stuff there as well. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take these sticks and then turn them into feather sticks. And the way you do that, I'll show you that. Let me just zoom in a bit so it's easier to see. What we're going to do is, depending how dry this wood is, it might not actually work, but it might work. So what we do is you start from the top and you basically create shavings that go all the way down, right? And then you don't, sometimes if they can, or if you can, just leave them on connected to the end here, right? So they come out and they create these like curls. So you want to use pressure from your dominant hand pushing down on the knife to create these curls, and you want to find edges to go down and create these curls on, right? So if you have a corner, come down, and then it's just going to curl like that. So this is what they kind of look like, right? That's what we want to kind of do. That's the feathers, right? So that's what we want to do with a bunch of sticks here. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And if they fall off, it's okay. Just pile them up in your dry area where all your smaller pieces of logs, or sorry, smaller pieces of branches are, where that really thin material is. It's the exact same material now. Okay, so this is almost creating like shavings that can catch the flame very, very, very easily. And if they all fall off, it's okay. You can collect them. Just make sure they don't blow away. This is probably the most laborious part. But this really helps create a fire quickly, because these little shavings, and all these shavings that fallen off, we can collect those and keep them. All these shavings here, oh, there you go. They're all going to catch a flame very, very easily. Okay, so that's one kind of done. We're going to do another one as well. And we're going to take another piece, just like this, right? find an edge, and then come down, just like that. Do it a couple of times. Okay, and then find another edge. Bring it down a couple of times. Okay, find another edge, go down. Just like that, over and over and over again. And if it's very, very dry wood, you'll notice that these curls tend to fall off, which is happening here because it's this wood's been seasoned for a very long time, which means it's been left out to dry out. It's not really green wood anymore, which is good because it'll catch fire easily. But these curls might fall off a little bit because it's so dry. Okay, so that's another one there. That's another one down there, right? Lots of curls, lots of little feathers, as we call it. Okay, that's number 2. And I'm gonna do one more, just because I think I need a little bit more. It's very windy today, so any of the flames that do kind of catch on might get blown out. So I wanna make sure I have as much surface area as possible for the flames to catch on. So I'm just gonna keep doing this, finding another edge. And I find that bringing your knife down and having a very sharp knife at a specific angle really helps. Holding the knife kind of with your fist, pushing down with a lot of even pressure is good. All right, sometimes you have to change the angle depending if you kind of catch an edge or so. And then if it's not really working, kind of find a new place to start, just like this, and keep coming down. All right, come down. Just like this. Okay, so we have a few feather sticks here. This might be enough to start, which is great, and it might not be, so we'll find out. It's okay if it doesn't work, because we can always do it again and keep going. All good. Okay, so we have our feather sticks, which are great. What we're also going to do is we're going to take some of these sticks and just keep breaking them down thinner and thinner and thinner until we have very, very thin diameter sticks. So again, we do that with batoning, right? So we tap the top and split the wood, just like that. Right, get to the end, split. Do the same on the other end. Tap, tap, tap. Get to the end, split. Right. Do it again here. Oops. Tap, tap, tap. Split. Okay. Do this one again. And if you notice that it's not going all the way in the center, all the way down, that's okay. Sometimes wood, the grains don't go all the way down, and sometimes they do, just like this one, they'll go all the way down. So these are what we're kind of looking for. Very, very thin diameter sticks, right? Super thin, maybe the size of your pinky or so. That's good, right? So we want to keep breaking these down to those sizes if we can, depending how the wood splits. Okay, let's break this one down as well. So if you're building a fire, it's good to do it with a lot of light. Do it well before dark, just because it's a lot easier to see what you're doing in the sunlight, of course. I mean, you can do it with a headlamp on, but with sunlight, it's a lot easier. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time before dusk to create fire. Okay, just gonna keep splitting this one. Oh, this one's beautiful. Split right in the middle, okay? That's great. So we're gonna do it one more time, just on the thicker side. Another great one. And this one as well. All the way down, split across. Okay, so now we got most of our components, if not all of our components. Okay, so we have our feather sticks, any of the shavings that fell off while we were creating those shavings. We have our small diameter sticks, we have our little bit thicker sticks, and then we have our logs back here. So let's start building the fire base, and then eventually lighting it, and then seeing and then fueling the fire with bigger and bigger logs to help it grow. So let's move over to the fire pit now. I'll show you what that looks like. I'm just gonna pause it for a quick sec and get right back to you. Okay, now we're kind of zoomed in on the fire pit area. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna build our fire base from the bottom up. And there's different ways of doing this. There's kind of the log cabin method or the TP method. It really doesn't really matter at this stage because we have enough material to start a fire relatively easily. But what I'm gonna show you is kind of like a modified method, the method that I kind of use more often than not. It's basically easier to get underneath the fire to start the flame, but I'll show you how that looks like. Okay, so we're going to start off with our kind of really easy to light material. So that's that material that we found around our campsite, that paper material. Okay, so we're going to start off by placing that more or less in the center with the pines and the needles at the bottom here. Then we're going to take those twigs, and then what we're going to do is just going to cut them or snap them in half a little bit and just build a little pile in the center, crisscrossing them a bit. And what that's going to do is that's going to be an area for all those embers and those initial fire coals to drop down into and ignite further. And this is very dry material. Like you can see, it's snapping very, very easily. So this stuff is fairly dry. All right. I'm going to take those little twigs as well, pile them up, snap them, create that base, that initial base. Okay. Okay, just like so. Then we're going to take some of the shavings that we produced when we were doing feather stick making. We're going to pile them in a very nice tight pile on top there as well. The bark that we found and those needles that we found around our campsite, we're going to take those now, kind of scrunch them up a little bit, okay, and pile them on top as well, right in the center, making sure it's all nice and compact. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to take just one of those medium-sized logs like this, and I like to place it in the back here. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to be an area where I'm going to lay my sticks kind of across, and then that's just going to hold it up, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a sec here. Okay, we're going to take our feather sticks now, and we're going to put those across the top of our pile here, and making sure all those like feathered areas, are all kind of right next to each other and piled up kind of on top of each other, just like this. Okay, what this does, it still leaves an open area here for me to get into and light the base of the flames. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to take those very, very small diameter sticks and we're going to pile them up over the feather sticks areas, so just like this. Okay, and make sure you want to leave a little bit of space at the bottom here to give access so that you can light the fire from the base. So we're going to lay these from behind as well. Okay, and make sure if you have a thicker end or a thinner end, at this point you want to put the thin end near the top where the flames would be going. Okay, and if it's too long and your wood's dry enough, you can just snap them in half and lay them like so. Okay, any of the larger pieces you can also lay, but make sure those thinner pieces are placed first. Okay, so let's look through. Okay, we got thin pieces here as well, so let's lay those across. And what I'm doing is I'm building a bit of a teepee here. Okay, so what that happens is the fire lights from the bottom and rises up. Okay, all this material will catch on fire eventually. But there's a lot of surface area, and the wood is thin enough that it'll catch on fire relatively quickly. Okay, just taking these, snapping them in half a little bit. Okay, laying them on top as well, just like so. Oops, fell. And taking any of these like little sticks and stuff like that that are very, very small, okay, just snap them in half if you can. All right, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna toss them into the top here. Just like so. Okay, that's a pretty good start. All right, now I'm gonna just move it over so that you can see what it looks like from this end as well. You can see what I've done here. Zoom in there. Great. So you can see at the very base, it's those little twigs and sticks that I found. Then it's those shavings and the bark that we found. Then it's the feather sticks and the shavings, and then all the little sticks that are surrounding it as well. And now when we light it from the bottom, all of the very highly flammable material should light and ignite. Those flames should then carry upwards, igniting the rest of this. So let's see if that works. Hopefully it all goes as planned. If not, we can readjust and figure it out. What I'm gonna do though is, there's a bit of shavings from the feather stick making process. I'm gonna take from my work area here, and I'm just gonna add that kind of on top as well. Okay. All that material, all those shavings help catch the flame and spread it. Just on the top there. All right, here's the moment of truth now. We're gonna take our matches, take one match, light the base of the flame, or light the base of the fire, and perhaps spread it to a couple of different areas if we can. So at the bottom here, and then just leave it, and then hopefully it'll ignite. So here we go. And because it's fairly windy, I want to do this fairly close to the base so that once I light the match, I can easily put it into the fire base. Okay? Okay, so I've lit it at one area. Hopefully my match has enough. But it looks like that's enough here. So right now it's catching that really easily ignitable papery bark material, and it's traveling up through the rest of the those feather sticks material, those shavings. It's all lighting on fire now, which is great. There's a lot of heat being generated. The wind is actually helping us in this instance. It's adding more oxygen, which is fueling the fire, which is great. And now we can continue to add more sticks because this fire is getting more and more intense. So take those sticks that you've created, keep adding them, and basically they're just gonna keep igniting. That fire and flame is gonna get spread to them as well. And then what we can do is eventually transition to larger and larger sticks as well, and then larger and larger logs. So we're just gonna keep adding these medium-sized sticks now because we have a fire going. Right, that's awesome, that's great. And then eventually we can start adding our bigger logs here as well. And we're gonna do the same kind of thing here. We're gonna lay them in more or less of a teepee pattern so that they ignite, and then they can get ignited as well. And we can spread the flames to them as well. So just be careful here because there's so much surface area because we cut the logs and those pieces down very, very thin. It's a very highly energetic fire, and you're going to go through a lot of wood quicker this way because there's more surface area, but eventually you want to transition to larger and larger logs, and those logs kind of from the previous folks that were here, the campsite are just positioned around the flames as well right now, just so that they dry out, and then eventually I'll just tip them over onto the flames as well, so then the fire can spread to them. But basically, that's how you start a fire. Hopefully this works for you, and hopefully you learned something today. If you're at home, practice at home if you can. Get out there and enjoy camping. And like I said, it's great to know how to do this. It just makes your life a lot easier when you get to a campsite. You can start a fire really easily. You don't have to struggle. In some cases, some people cheat a bit, add some lighter fluid to the logs to make it a little bit easier. But if you do this, and it didn't even take that long, about 10 minutes or so, you can have a raging fire that you can really sit around and enjoy the outdoors a little bit more. So thank you so much for watching. And hey, Chate, I got the fire started.
Why?
Just cause. Get some coals going. Bless you. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. It will really help me out. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.